All right, everybody. So we have some pretty big news regarding Naughty Dog's next game. Now, of course, there's been lots of speculation as to what their next game is. Neil Druckmann actually confirmed that they've been working on whatever their next game is since 2020. It's either going to probably be The Last of Us Part 3 or it'll be that new IP that's been rumored. But we have some news coming to us for whatever this next game is, and it's really, really interesting and has me thinking of some different things. So let's dive into it. So first off, Troy Baker is actually playing Indiana Jones in what was an Xbox exclusive game, and now is just a game that everybody has that's made by Microsoft, I guess. And so he's been doing lots of interviews for this game. And he specifically did one with GQ, to which I'll link below. But he said something really interesting in this article that gives us a glimpse into Naughty Dog's next game. And so here's a quote from the article. It says, "Next year, though, Troy Baker reunites with Ken Levine in Judas, the director's decade-in-the-making follow-up to the BioShock series. Beyond that, it gets hazy for Troy Baker, but he will return for Druckmann's new project at Naughty Dog. In a heartbeat, I would always work with Troy, he told me." So that's kind of the quote from this article, where we get it confirmed that what Troy Baker is working on next is this next Naughty Dog project coming from Neil Druckmann. Now, this creates all kinds of speculation as to what it could be. First off, we know for a fact from the Last of Us Part 2 documentary that Neil Druckmann pretty much immediately after the second game's release began working on a story that would have followed Tommy and Tommy going through his grief with Joel and all the different things there. And there's always been this rumor floating around of a Tommy prequel game that would have dived into what Tommy was doing during part 2, but would have flashbacks to Joel and Tommy's good old days of growing up in the apocalypse and all the kind of horrific things they went through and experienced. And when you think about how he would have been working on that around the time of 2020, when this game that they're currently developing would have been being made, and now you hear that Troy Baker is joining on with whatever this game is, it makes you think, is it possible that we're getting that Tommy prequel game that would dive into Tommy's grief from part 2, but also give us lots of glimpses of him and Joel's time together after Sarah dies and all the different things they went through leading up to meeting Tess and all of that kind of stuff? That is honestly a possibility, and I think it's probably the strongest possibility we've seen this game's potential for existence being. Another option is that he's returning for flashbacks or dream sequences for The Last of Us Part 3. Of course, we know that when the original Last of Us came out, pretty much when the game released, they immediately began working on Part 2 and began early production. Fully possible that The Last of Us Part 3, I would imagine, has been actually being worked on since 2020, that as soon as Part 2 released, they began, again, that pre-production stuff, working on an idea, working on what could this next game be about. We've got to finish this series. We've got to keep up with the HBO show and release this before the show gets to that point. And it could be that he is a part of The Last of Us Part 3 in some form of flashback sequences, or whether it's dreams, we don't fully know, but that's also possible. The last thing that's possible is that Troy is playing some part in this new IP that's been rumored. That we've heard lots of stories of Naughty Dog working on a new IP, a brand new franchise that they want to lean into after The Last of Us. It could be that whatever this game is, that we know that Naughty Dog does love Troy Baker, that they brought him back to be Nathan Drake's brother in Uncharted 4, that they love working with him as Joel, that him and Neil have a great relationship. I could totally see them wanting to work together, and essentially him being in that new IP and playing a main character or a side role. We don't really know, but I could see that as well. But of course, nobody really cares about that. What they care about is hearing Troy Baker's name and Naughty Dog working together. It does get you excited. It would be really cool if they were secretly working on that Tommy prequel and they released that game, which would be sort of a Miles Morales game, where it would be a game that's like The Last of Us, but not as long, but long enough to justify it being its own game and not just DLC. That would be incredibly cool to find out that that thing is actually real and that Troy Baker will be back in it playing Joel for all of those flashbacks that Tommy's going to have with Joel and those playable sequences. That would be awesome. I will say, though, that out of all three options, that feels like the least likely. Just in the way they've talked about it, they've made it kind of sound like whatever story Neil was trying to work on and then press paused on it, because we know for a fact that they were actually developing this Tommy game. It wasn't just an idea. They came up with an idea, a concept. They were beginning to actually do production on the game, and then they put it on pause so that they could kind of sort out the crunch issue at Naughty Dog. That Neil has confirmed that that was the case. So it is possible that after they figured out crunch, they picked up the game again and have been working on it ever since. Fully possible. I wouldn't be shocked if that's actually the case, or it could be The Last of Us Part 3 or that new IP. Honestly, I think they want to release The Last of Us Part 3 or some sort of Last of Us property really, really soon. As the show kind of moves forward, the show has kind of made this game have to come out, in my opinion, before the new IP from Naughty Dog. I think that they kind of want to wrap up The Last of Us story on the PS5. I think there's a reason that they completely remastered the Part 1 game to release on PS5 and then did an update for the Part 2 for the PS5, as they want the entire trilogy of The Last of Us all to live on the PS5 in one bundle, and it'll come out towards the end of the PS5's life cycle, probably in 2027, and then they'll release The Last of Us collection on the PS6 with updates for all three of those games when the PS6 releases in 2028, 2029, and they'll kind of have a remaster trilogy collection. So I think personally that that's the most likely to me. I think it would be weird to have a Last of Us game without some kind of presence of Joel, whether Ellie is having dream sequences with him or flashbacks or whatever. It would feel really strange for them not to have him appear, so I could totally see that happening. But again, it's possible it's that new IP, he's just playing a different character, but I really do think he's returning as Joel, whether it's in this Tommy game that we know was in development but it was paused, or whether it's in Part 3. That's what I think. But with that being said, I want to know what you guys think, so head down to the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts. When you hear that Troy Baker's working with Naughty Dog, that the next thing he's working on is Neil Druckmann's next game, does that get you excited? What do you think it'll be? Do you think it's that Tommy prequel? Do you think it's Part 3? Do you think it's a new IP? Or do you think it's something else? Do you think Nathan Drake's brother is getting his own game? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that junk, and I will see you guys in the next one.